Okay. Please rise. This meeting will come to order for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Benjamin.
Here.
Baylor.
Here.
Holman.
Here.
Kasdorf.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Sardina.
Here.
Tarks.
Here.
Is there anyone desiring to be heard? Just come up to the microphone and your name. Do we need an address? Name and address,
Sure,
and then you have 3 minutes.
sure. Tom Slavinsky, and I live at 21005 George Hunt Circle. Technically in Waukesha, but it's the town of Brookfield. I'm here representing the Elmbrook Senior Taxi. I'm the executive director there. And I just want to, first of all, thank you for your continued support over the years. We really appreciate it. Just a little update. Our business has increased by about 20% this year, which forced is not the best word, but enabled us to buy another car. So we have now 6 vehicles. The majority of the increase seems to be from the state programs for disabled adults, which is, I think, just absolutely terrific. We've switched to Honda Accord hybrids because the Hyundais that we had have tended to be a little bit unreliable, and the expenses, gas and maintenance for the Hondas are a little bit lower. We haven't seen that yet, but it's when you had it for a short time, but hopefully all signs point to that. We have given 400 rides to 10 Butler residents so far this year. So 2/3 of them have been to job and job opportunities, training, things like that. And the rest have been to medical appointments and primarily to senior centers. So this past year, we also had a modest increase in our fares. There was just nothing we can do with extra costs for insurance, maintenance, gas, all that stuff. So we haven't had one in 5 years. So hopefully we can not have another one in 10 years. But anyway, thank you again for your continued support. We appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike Etzel, 5052 North 127th Street. Recently, I contributed something to the Clark House to Maryland on behalf of my father and other things related to my family's history here in Butler. And it just kind of highlighted my curiosity concerning the Clark House. In my travels and talking to other people around the community, there's a lot of people that don't even know about the existence of the Clark House. And it's a really cool thing we got going on there with the Clark House for anybody who's ever been in there. So I guess I'm just curious as to where people can find out more about that. If there's ever an open house to promote amongst the community here, more involvement, more awareness of the Clark House. And, I guess that's my main concern. It's just curious to know how we can promote that a little bit more and get more of the residents involved.
I can just speak to that very quickly, not to get into a full discussion, but I'm on that committee, and they do meet once a month. We have a small pool of volunteers that try to do the open houses, and I think Marilyn's the main person.
Right.
So it's kind of when she has the availability to do it, and then others will help as well. So we do have meetings once a month, and I can get you that information.
Okay.
And I can also pass on, they would be in charge of promoting or giving tours of the house.
Right. I mean, how would you promote that more through the newsletter?
Well, we could do something on, they are their own board. So
Or in concert with the
and
library?
I do give updates when I go to the meetings. So
Okay, I'll talk to you later on
Yeah.
about that.
we know there is a group of people that is in charge of the house.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else desiring to be heard? Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with the correction of the newest trustee wasn't listed on the minutes.
Is there a second?
Exist.
So,
Thank you, Pat. I exist.
so
I'll
on
second
the,
that.
on the roll call,
On the, yes, on the roll.
Okay.
Tom did a
So it's
second.
Pat and Tom.
Yes. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. I know it says communications none, but was there any other communications?
not at this time, not that I'm aware of.
Committee reports, building board?
Building board met at 5:40 this evening and approved a shed permit for Caitlin Speaker at 12815 West Stark and an occupancy permit for Alaska Fresh located at 4556 North 126th. End of report.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee?
So public safety, excuse me, also met tonight. The first to give an update was the police chief. Things have been going well at Skateland. Really no major incidents over there. Their new security company is doing a great job and that's been going well over there. Sort of chronicled the large events over the summer, being the 4th of July parade, National Night Out, Hot Rods on Hampton, all of which were really successful with minimal or no actions or citations from the police. Personnel, we're still fully staffed and we have 2 officers due to come off of probation real soon. Our new squad is almost ready to go into service and we have new handguns and new patrol rifles. Also with back to school, there's been a real push to be engaging with the community and especially at and around St. Agnes. End of report.
Fire Department also spoke.
Almost end of report. Fire department also gave the report. Thank you. Run volume is pretty close to normal amounts for the last quarter. Personnel is an ongoing challenge. We're losing a couple more right now. Chief said we're holding our own, but he's always looking for new people. Our ladder truck is quite aged and has some non-functional parts, but is still a serviceable rig at this time. And the chief is looking into options for dealing with that. Training for the fire and EMS part are going on as scheduled and going well. End of report.
Thank you. Report of the administrator?
Do we have a library report? at all?
Oh, sorry, library report.
Library will meet next Tuesday. End of report.
I just have 2 things really quick. The first is that the biggest thing is we are completing our LCR. It's our LCR report. It is required by the federal government and the state government. The DPW had to inventory every single every single service line in the village to determine what it was made of. It's basically made to inventory and get a count of how many lead service lines are in every municipality. The village of Butler has never had lead service lines. We've only had copper and now we're switching over to PVC. So we still have to inventory them. We have to let the state know, but that has been a months-long project that the DPW has been involved with. I am now kind of wrapping everything up with a nice little bow and getting ready to turn that into the state before the October 16th deadline. And then I did want to just kind of give a shout out if I can. I'm sorry, Beth, but Beth is here. She is our new library director. She has officially taken over duties from Genevieve, who I believe her very last day was today or yesterday. Today. So she is now in control. So she is here just to kind of meet all of you and say hi and kind of sit in on the budget discussion. So end of report.
Thank you. New business, discussion and possible action on resolution 24-15, a resolution to reschedule village meetings due to general election.
Yes, so this is a resolution to move the November 5th meeting to the 6th, just because we have the presidential election that is being held on that day. Please come and pay us a visit anyways to come and vote. It's very, very important. We will be here from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on that day.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution and move the meeting for November to the 6th.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. The overview of the 2025 budget with discussion to follow. So I talked with Ben, our format for tonight is we did get he's gonna put it up on PowerPoint, correct?
Mhm.
We're gonna go through it. What would work best is he'll get through that and then he can answer little questions during the presentation and then longer discussions we can have at the end of it.
Yes, so this structure is going to be a little bit different than in past years. I used to put you all to sleep by going line by line through the budget, and we would be here for about an hour and a half. So what I'm trying to do this time, I'm sorry, what? Oh yeah. Thank you, Aaron. You might have to play around. I don't know what's going to be best, but so this format is just going to be giving you a very high level overview of the budget in and of itself, just talk about the significant changes that we have, and kind of just giving some highlights. So feel free to stop me and ask questions. I'm planning on having a larger discussion at the end, because I do have some items that I would like the village to help me decide what we are going to do on this. So to begin, I have provided what you're going to see right off the bat is the challenges in crafting the budget are going to be greater than the positive impacts on the budget. We continue to have inflationary pressures, and the state, while they gave us more money last year for the shared revenue, that was a one-time thing, and it's going to increase over year over year, but it's going to be very small, about 2% to 3%. At a time, we actually saw a negative increase in our state aid because they decreased our utility aid payments. So we actually saw a decrease in state funding for next year. Healthcare costs increased about around 9%. And we do have a large number of capital requests that we need to have. Overall, cost of insurance is going up. That's not healthcare related. As I said, decrease in shared revenue and fiscal pressures, have been really greatly building on the budget this year, and you're going to kind of see that as we go through. Some positive impacts, though, are we had a larger amount of net new construction compared to last year. Actually, it was probably our biggest year in some time. We also saw expenditure restraint funds being given to us for next year, and we had an increase in non-tax revenues from increases in fees and forfeitures. And we did have the revaluation where we saw the assessed values going up across all sectors of the village, which do help keep the tax rate itself lower. And right now, I don't know the exact rate, but it's significantly lower from where it was last year at $9.8. So the goals of this budget were to maintain the tax rate, if at all possible, funding needed capital projects and infrastructure, employee retention through making sure that everybody's being paid a fair wage, that the benefits are staying of good quality, and also maintaining good financial positions of all of the funds that we have. So some highlights from the general fund revenues. We are seeing a 20% increase in the water utility tax equivalent for the general fund. This is a little bit of a correction from the previous budget. It should have been reflected in this year's budget, but there was a little bit of confusion when the positions turned over on what should be allocated to that. So I have given that money to the revenues in the general fund. We are seeing an increase of 140% in our law enforcement training reimbursement under Wisconsin Act 227. If you have any questions on that, Brian could probably give you a little bit of background. But it's basically reimbursing the village more for the required training that the state puts our officers through. We are also seeing a large increase from the personal property tax reimbursement. 2023 saw the elimination of the personal property tax, so now the state is reimbursing us for that. So we are no longer levying that tax. The state is reimbursing us for that, but that number is going to be frozen and will not increase with the rest of our tax base, which is a little bit of a disappointment and a negative to the village's budget. That also, like I said, is a decrease in the amount levied. And we do have small increases in stuff in items such as citation revenue, Well permits are going to be up for renewal next year, recycling revenue, and community building fee rentals. And we are seeing a couple decreases in revenues overall to mirror trends. We've seen a decline in number of building permits and the sale of recyclable materials and other miscellaneous revenues. And I'm not 100% sure how the federal rate cut is going to affect our interest rates with the bank long term, and if there's going to be future rate cuts. So I just want to, the general principle is you don't budget off of interest. So I want to reduce the amount of interest, and then anything that we get above what our interest rate or our interest for the budget is will be a positive thing. All of other revenues are steady with minimal increases and decreases, and overall revenues for the general fund are flat for 2025, which obviously is a problem going back to the whole inflationary pressures. Inflation's not zero, so we're trying to purchase and do the same thing with the same amount of money, which is very, very difficult. Highlights of the expenditures. We are seeing small increases in the village administrator budget, mainly because of the cost of health insurance. That increase is partially being offset by decreases in travel, training, meetings, and membership dues expenses. The finance budget is being cut by about $10,000 or about 19%, mainly because the assistant administrator does not take our health insurance, and that is a huge benefit to the village financially. The clerk budget is being cut by about 15%, and that's mainly being driven by a correction in the amount of overtime budgeted and a reduction in the cost of elections, since we're only going to have 2 next year instead of 4, and those elections are nowhere near as large as the ones that we saw this year. We're seeing a small increase in the building and facilities maintenance due to just the general, again, inflationary pressures and the increase in cost of materials and supplies. And the expenses are partially being offset by a decrease in telephone costs. Earlier this year, we moved from MyTel to Ring Central, which is saving us on average about $150 to $200 a month in our phone bills. The court is seeing a modest increase of about 7.33%, mainly being driven by increased attorney services. With the police officers being more active, more citations are being written, and hence more time is needing to be spent on the attorney's part to prosecute those cases and spend more time in court. Legal counseling for administration is being cut as larger legal projects were completed in 2024, including the rewrite of our personnel handbook. The police department wages and benefits are seeing an increase of about $40,000 or 3.5%. This is due to contractual increases for officers and command staff, as well as the increase in health insurance. We are seeing a decrease in the amount of professional development and police administration by about 4.5% to 5%, with a total decrease of about $3,000. And savings are also being found in a reduction in telephone expenses, less travel and meetings. And I'll just say for the professional development and administration, this is reflecting more of it's not necessarily a cut, but it's a more accurate representation of what is actually being charged. If I'm not mistaken, Brian did a very good job of breaking down exactly what each are going to be costing and being very precise in how much he was asking for that. So it's not necessarily a cut to the training. It's just being a little bit more precise in the numbers. And police equipment and maintenance is staying flat in 2025. And overall, the police department is seeing an increase of about 3.1% or about $40,000. Public Works wages and benefits are decreasing by about $8,000 or 6.28%. Both are being recognized by the retirement of a longtime village employee, and the DPW administration budget is staying flat while general operations are increasing by about 7.5%, mainly being driven by the increase in streetlight maintenance, which is basically the cost of lighting the streets, We Energies bills, and any type of maintenance that would need to be done on the streetlights, and then the hydrant rental fee. And again, this is a partial correction from a previous budget, but we are seeing an increase due to that. Contingencies are non-existent this year at this time, and we are unable to predict what our insurance rates are going to be right now. I did speak to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, who is our insurance broker, and they are expecting hopefully our rates to go down actually somewhat this year. So I'm hopeful for that. But I won't know until probably the middle of October when I get the final quotes from them. And then technology and contracted services are increasing by about 26,000, largely due to the increase in the fire department's budget. And again, overall expenses for the village are flat for 2025, mainly due to, again, we have to balance with our revenues. And again, the expenditures are flat, mainly because we have to make sure that the budget balances, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up going over what we have budgeted just because of the inflationary pressures. And I'm just going to give a quick little highlight of the fire department budget. Chief Zulik is here if you have any questions for him with regards to this budget. But they are seeing about a 7% increase, which comes out to be about a $25,000 increase. And this is mainly due to the increases in wages and compensation for both on-call and daytime staff. As you heard in the Public Safety Committee meeting, they need to continue to recruit, and they need to be competitive with their private counterparts and the surrounding municipalities if they're going to be able to recruit and maintain their employees. So pretty much the overwhelming, if not almost all of the increase is to make sure that their wages remain competitive. It's also really important that they include the cost of their turnout gear and insurance. They're seeing a little bit of an increase in their insurance costs related to workers' compensation due to a claim that was filed. And then also we need to make sure that we're properly funding them for the rescue supplies and equipment replacement so they can remain safe when they're carrying out their duties. I guess I'll just stop right here and see if you guys have any questions so far.
I'll just make one comment on the fire department and their budget. Even with the daytime wage increases, they don't get health insurance with that, so they are still under the private sector rate, correct? Yeah.
What that does, we compete with private ambulance.
Yes.
I can compete with, they were going to private ambulance, and we're within a dollar, less than $2, and now
Yep.
I'm in that range, because I lose a fair amount of people for that. But there's no benefits whatsoever for these people.
I just wanted to make that comment.
All right. Highlights of the library fund. Currently, as the budget stands, the amount of tax dollars allocated to the library is set to increase by about $3,000 for the next year. And they are expecting a large increase in the amount of intergovernmental aid, amounting to an increase of about $8,000. As a note, I have been in communication with Charlene about the library's budget. And I believe that part of that, I think, Charlene, is it half of that 8,000 is coming from grants from bridges?
The grants from bridges that they've guaranteed to us are $2,400.
Okay. So,
About a third of that.
okay.
Including the grants.
Okay.
The true increase in intergovernmental revenue is $2,400 less than what shows in that budget line.
We're reflecting it there because they don't have a budget line item for grants, so it's just being included with that. And then we are also seeing an increase in their revenues due to the money market that we opened this year being fully open for the entirety of 2025 for the first time, and we're expecting, roughly about $100 or so every month being generated from that. All of the revenue is expected to remain steady. And currently, as it stands, the overall revenues are expected to increase by about $5,000. For their expenditures, the library is trying to get their staff to market rate and competitive again with the surrounding libraries. The village of Butler is, I would say, pretty far behind on their wages. So we are on I believe, a 3-year plan to get them to market rate. So some of the employees are percentage-wise are seeing a pretty decent increase, but overall, the wages and benefits are increasing by about $5,000, again, to make sure that we can retain the staff that we have. And if one of them were to leave, we can make sure that we can recruit quality people. I really enjoy working with all the library folks, so I want to keep them. They do a fantastic job with what they do. Library administration is decreasing by about $2,000 as utilities and telephone budgets are being reduced, partially by previous overstatement of expenses in the last year's budget, and also again for Ring Central taking over as our phone provider. The equipment and maintenance budget is increasing by about 3,000, with the largest item being computer maintenance. I'll make a quick note on that. We are, and we can talk about this later. I have talked with Charlene today about the computer maintenance budget. They were operating off of a discussion with Taylor Computers on replacing the director's laptop, that we believe the quote that was given to them verbally was overstated by about $2,000. So when I reached out to Taylor Computers today for a written quote, it came in, instead of being 4,000, including the laptop and the labor associated with it, with the laptop, it's actually going to be closer to about 1,900 total, or about 2,000, I should say, total. So the village is going to have a discussion on that, where that frees up about another $2,000 and where we want to move that money to. So again, that's a discussion that we can have towards the end of this. And I'll just move on here with the programs and services are decreasing with a decline in the cafe member charges, along with a decline along with the shared databases and licenses. And the library collection expenses are expected to stay steady for 2025. Again, overall, the expenses are increasing by about $5,000 or 3.69%. Any questions on the library that you guys have really quick? All right. Highlights of the Park and Rec Fund. So the park maintenance budget is being increased by about $1,000 due to trends and expenditures in the account. I've just noticed that every year we get between $9,000 and $10,000. We've always set it at 9,000, so I wanted to go up another 1,000 to make sure that we stop going over in that line item, and we can account for the expenses there. And probably one of the more controversial aspects of the budget is a proposed $5,000 decrease in the amount allocated to the celebrations, which is the parade and fireworks, to help ensure the stability of village core services. So with the levy being decreased, we're seeing about, I want to say an 11% decrease in what we can actually levy due to the removal of the personal property tax, and then the other necessary items such as funding the capital projects and other needed services. This is a way that we can ensure that we have the funds that we need to cover what is being covered, what needs to be covered in other funds. And the proposal is that we work in tandem with the Community Events Committee to gather sponsorships for the 4th of July parade, where we can continue to have the fireworks and keep some of the parade attendees and basically fundraise and have sponsorships for the event to keep it going. And then we're also looking at reviewing bingo proceeds and even possibly considering fireworks every other year. And Village Hall is open to definitely assisting the Community Events Committee in any way in soliciting those donations. I have, again, recently made a lot of good contacts with business owners such as Cargill, Western States, Molden River Plastics, a lot of the different building owners in the village and large employers that I can definitely use my connections and try to appeal to them for donations. Any questions on that before I move on to the debt service?
Just a comment, the reason why this is being proposed, I've been working with Ben quite a bit. We are about $21,000 or so in the hole. So we are trying, with the budget we have in front of us, we are still short $21,000, even with the $5,000 decrease. So that's kind of where this came from. And it most certainly can be discussed.
Well, then let's, because I feel that that's something that we need to look at. I mean, we look at the $5,000 decrease. We look at the revenues generated from the 5 months of bingo. the breakfast events with Santa and the Easter Bunny. And you look at that, and what is our revenue for that, Ben? Somewhere around $8,000?
About, yes.
Okay. So that $8,000 more than covers the cost of the parade. So where are we taking the money from then? Because it doesn't look like there's $8,000 allocated for a parade.
So there's celebration. Ben, do you have that? There's two lines there. One's called celebrations,
I can pull it
and
up.
there's two lines that total 12,000.
So the celebrations, if you can see here, right now, so the 2024 budget, it was 14, and we are right now I have have it at 10,000, but we have the celebrations expense at 10,000, and the park fees are budgeted about 7,000. I'm expecting probably about 7,200 right now for the park fees for 2024. So we have 10,000 for park maintenance, 2,000 for the community programs, and 10,000 for the celebrations.
What would those community programs consist of in this budget, Ben?
So the community programs most of that goes towards the advertising of the bingo. I believe it's like a little over $100 per month to be advertising in the bingo bugle, and I believe that there's so I think that we purchase the bingo license, the raffle license, and bingo cards and other types of materials that also gets taken out of that budget.
Where do we see what's under the celebration then?
The
Because
celebration is the parade and the fireworks.
okay, so how much are fireworks in 2024?
It was about $10,250.
Closer to 11.
Oh, yeah, 'cause we had-
10,005, then we had the hazard fee.
Yes,
last year.
yes.
So
Thank
let's
you.
just say 11,000.
About 11,000 with the hazardous fee.
So fireworks was 11,000. The parade that we supported was about 3,000, and then the proceeds from the fundraising went to the parade. That's where the money went. So
So off of that math, there should have been $3,000 left over from the proceeds from the 7 different events that were held between December and May, correct?
We have brought in about $7,250. I don't have the exact breakdown of everything that was spent on 4th of July, since that's baked in with the celebrations. But there should be, when we take the 7,000, subtract it out from the 16,213, it's about 9,000. So and the village had to cover the rest of that 9,000 for that. I'm sorry.
Has that been in the past that the celebration was broken into different line items? One was parade and one was fireworks, so we could identify what those costs were specific?
It's possible. There's a hidden line here, so that might be what that is. Let's take a look. I want that. Oh, that's softball league. So not that I am seeing here. Yeah, this is FICA tax. So yeah, not that I'm seeing that. I'm not seeing that in this budget document in and of itself is broken out.
I think you're right, though. I think it was broke down separately.
Well, it was previously because
Yeah.
that's how Charlene presented it to me when we transitioned the
Right,
parades, right?
right.
Grace said a non-lapsing fund.
Yeah, and that was, again, before my time, that was closed out.
It was what?
I believe that non-lapsing fund was closed out.
When was that done?
I don't know. It was before my time here.
I don't think there was any money in it. That was a couple, yeah, I think there was several.
It was
several-
financially solid at one point. It had over $23,000 in it. So when it was closed out, where did those funds go?
I would have to investigate that again. That was before my time.
But at the end, I know the fireworks went from 7,500 at one point up to, or maybe it was $5,000 show, and it went to 10,000 at one point within the last couple years. So I guess at the end of the day, this is what the board's gonna have to determine is general fund is, we need, for our current budget, $21,000.
One year the fireworks did double, but last year it stayed the same, right?
Well, we've
Yeah.
been at 10,500
For a couple of years.
for a
Right,
couple
they-
years.
It went from 5 to 10 and then it kind of.
Yeah, yes.
I guess I just don't understand the effort that goes into those events surpasses the cost of the parade. And yet we're looking at taking those events and it sounds like we're moving some of that money to offset the fireworks. And truly, those two items should be separated. Because I think we're muddying the waters a little bit by combining them into one.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, this way, I mean, a celebration, parade and fireworks, I don't see the need to break it out. But at the end of the day, it would be up to, we give this number to the park board or the committee event. They're gonna have to figure out how they want to spend it.
Well, but that's just it. The community events committee has never had any input whatsoever with respect to the fireworks. It's always been a fire department thing. That was my understanding that was driven by the fire department.
I've never heard that. The fire department's on scene to provide fire protection.
It's never been a part of anything that we've discussed in any of the meetings that I've gone to. From the inception of me taking the parade.
In the years I was involved, it was always driven by the village administration, the fireworks.
Right.
were always driven by the village administration.
Exactly.
Yeah, separate line.
So when we started talking about getting sponsorships for the fireworks and having it come through the community events committee, then, I mean, that was a surprise to me because as a community events committee member, that's the first I've heard of that. That was presented to the group 2 years ago by Kayla prior to her leaving. She's like, we should get sponsors for the fireworks. But it never went anywhere. And I can't imagine that today's community events committee is just as depleted in volunteers as every other committee. And now we're gonna put the burden of trying to solicit sponsorships for the fireworks on top of that. It just doesn't seem tenable.
So what you're telling me then is that well, it's not, Kevin's the chairman. The committee event only wants to focus on, they don't want anything to do with the fireworks.
They've never had anything to do with the fireworks. They've never been included in any of the planning for the
Okay,
fireworks.
fair enough. So then with that, if we take, I now see why you want celebrations broken out. Okay, what about just canceling the fireworks? I mean, the bottom line is we need the money. You tell me what else do we do? Every single dollar counts.
Well, I guess that's my point, Paul. We've got $8,000 or $7,000 that we fundraise so that we can put towards a parade, so that we have that money, because the $2,000 that gets allocated to the committee is spent to promote the committee. So we're technically not touching our $10,000 with respect to the parade, but yet that number is not reflected in the budget.
Exactly.
Yeah, this significant changes is like the way that's even worded and stuff doesn't say it accurately because of the way it was built out before with the fireworks being separate. So it's almost like we need to take a step back and sort of like say it more accurately.
Consistently over, I'm sorry, Mark, consistently over the last 4 years, there's been conversations held about what do we project? What does the community events committee project in terms of revenue for the upcoming year? quick tally the numbers based off of history, and that number is given to the village administrator. And then that's the budget on which we base our celebration for the 4th of July parade. When we discontinued the Christmas parade several years ago, it was done with the direction from the village administrator that that's fine, but we have to enhance the 4th of July celebration. I said, well, how do we do that? Band, entertainment, after work stuff. She was all for it. But that all came out of that fund that we were working so hard to create starting in December through May. That number's not up there. And I truly feel that if we're gonna look at that, the parade or the celebration of that needs to be reflected in both the revenue that's gained from it and the expenses that are broken out of it.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. 100%.
So this is an overview anyway, so why not put a hold on this particular part of the budget? Obviously, there needs to be some more scrutiny to this. We're not gonna
Yeah,
solve it
and
here.
to get clarification, what you're looking for is kind of finding out when it kind of became, when it got put together. Is that kind of what?
Well, I think that's important to know just for the history of it, because
Okay.
it was, to Charlene's point, it was always its own account. And it didn't reset at the time of the budget every year. That account flowed through year after year after year. And if memory serves, there was a sizable balance in that account at one point.
Yeah, I would have to do again some background and look and see what happened
Sure,
to
no,
that.
and I get that.
Um,
But looking ahead, I think that we need to really take a look at how this specific account is broken out so that we can identify, where those revenues and those expenses are.
Correct. And I if I'm understanding this correct, the end goal is to have at the very least a separation of the 4th of July, having like a 4th of July expenditure line item, and then having the parade line item, and then a fireworks line
I
item.
think so.
And then and I guess my question then is, would we keep the fireworks line item in the 101 account or move that into the 100 account?
What's the difference? What's the difference?
So the 101 account is the park and recreation fund, so that has its own separate fund balance. So right now that's where that money's coming out of. So if the fireworks expenses were to exceed the budgeted amount, the fund balance for the general fund, the 100s, that all of like the police, fire, DPW administration, that's all kept, that fund balance wouldn't be affected. It would only affect the 101 account fund balance. So if you want to move that back into the 100 account, then that would affect how the 101 account
When I
fund
talked,
is structured.
when I talked to Kayla here a couple years ago about the 4th of July fireworks, she said it was coming out of the general fund, which would be your 100 account.
And that's from what I have, when I took over the budget last year,
Yeah.
that is not necessarily what was happening. Where I went back again, I was looking at previous budgets, and at least the one from 2022, that's where the fireworks were coming out of, with the 101
So-
account.
So what she told me was fictitious. I don't want to call it anything else. but-
There could have been an internal change of where that was taken out of, but I don't want to speak to
Because we were having the same conversation 5 years ago about all of this. And right at this point, that's when 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, whatever it was, that's when I asked her about where all this money's going. Because it's like he's asking where they made $8,000, where's that money allocated? Where's the revenue side of that?
Yeah, and like I said, I can definitely do a deep dive on that and see what happened. To me, at just very surface level, without getting too deep, it seems as though there was some sort of change within the past 4 years where the money started to come from a different account. It just seems like that's where we're kind of going with that. And I'm starting to remember some auditor questions that they had. So like I said, I'll dig deep and I will send you guys something by Friday on kind of the history of that and what to do.
So at the end of the day, we have, if the park and rec monies if they want a separate line item, if we were to go to every other year for the fireworks, where would we put that as an example? This is just hypothetical. If we funded $5,000 this year, or for next year, where would that money be housed? In the 100 fund or the 101 fund?
And that's as of right now, as it has been since 2022, since I was here and I put through the payables for that, it's been in the 101 account.
And you wouldn't be able to keep it in the 100 because that just at the end of the year goes in, that's the general fund.
If we moved it into the 100 account, that's possible. We would just need to create or reactivate possibly a general ledger line item that we would then allocate that expense to. We would take away the revenues from the 101 account for the tax dollars that were being allocated to that and move it into the general fund, and then to counter that expense.
Yeah, I mean, the money, whether it's 100 or 101, it's the same tax dollar going to the event.
Yeah, but it's where you can spend it. If you put it in general fund, you could use it for anything. Technically.
Unless it has a line item,
Well,
then it's designated.
it's been done before where they've already walked over the line item and said, okay, it's in the general fund. We're going to use it. So I
So,
think that's where most of this problem is coming from, is things have been taken out of one out of one area and allocated to something else. And without good information for any of us to know where it's going.
all right, so if we do in the 101 fund, separated out a parade line and a fireworks line, I would ask Trustee Meyer then, how much would you, if you're fundraising 8,000 for the parade, or you're fundraising about 8,000 a year, that money would go to the parade. How much additional tax dollars would you need for that parade, or is 8,000 enough for your parade? Knowing that we spend about $8,000 now on the parade.
Based off of the numbers that were on the board, it looked like there was $2,000 in tax revenue dedicated to the community events committee with respect to its celebration.
Correct.
Right? I think that number's been consistent since 2018, where there's always been $2,000 allocated towards the parade. I would ask on behalf of the community events committee that $2,000 remain in that account and that the parade budget be based solely on that dollar amount plus whatever money is generated from the 7 different events that happen throughout the course of the year, thus leaving the $10,000 annually towards the fireworks celebration.
Okay, so that makes sense. So now let's focus just on the fireworks. So we could break it out, and we could do a parade line, and $2,000 would go into it. And then we would have fundraising funds available to sponsor that parade.
Well, I guess I just will the 2,000 that is being referenced for that is, again, currently that is being spent on the
Supporting the events that.
supporting the
give us
events.
revenue.
Okay.
I think there's some clarity with that now, because that was part of some of the questions that the committee had for you for our meeting in a couple of weeks, right? I would circle back to say, I wonder, Ben, if maybe that when we changed the name of the committee, if that account didn't change at that time. It's been maybe, right?
Yeah.
But I think the $2,000 to support those events helps cost off that. And then I think the money that's raised then specifically flows into being able to support the parade. And that budget is whatever we make. So by the time we get to the end of May, we know what our budget is for for July, which works out fine because most of the parade is figured out by the end of May, beginning of June anyway.
Yeah, and I guess what I'll also say is, so what I believe President Kasdorf is, as it stands right now in the 101 account, separate from the fireworks, there's $12,000 in tax revenue that would go towards that account. 10,000 for park maintenance, which is it covers stuff like the porta john at the lower diamonds, anything with regards to like the chalk, any type of supplies and stuff that the DPW needs for maintaining the park bathroom, that type of stuff. That's what the 10,000 goes for, plus the 2,000 for the promotion of the events. So that's 12,000 plus then 8,000 for that is raised by the community events committee. That would total it to be about $20,000 minus the fireworks. And again, with the fireworks, if we want to keep it in the 101 account, we'd have to then add, if we wanted to split the cost, it'd be about 5,000 or so. That's tax dollar driven. And then, and again, I can have the administration take over promotion of the 4th of July to gather sponsors, because I know that Aaron and Candace would not mind. I'm going to volunteer you to kind of reach out to, and myself included, reach out and try to promote that, because I know that Chief Zalewski puts in a lot of effort to fundraise for the National Night Out, and so I think that the administration can also promote it as well.
So I think we've got the parade part figured out. I think we need to have a discussion about the fireworks then.
Well,
Right
I think he just gave us a discussion where they're willing to go out and try to raise the finances for it, from what I heard, right?
They're willing to help, but what number should we put in there? Right now, we do about $11,000 of taxpayer money toward the fireworks. So we're talking just fireworks. So the board should have a discussion about fireworks. Keeping in mind that we're $21,000 in the hole right now. The numbers are the number. And that's why I'm asking I mean, now I understand the parade, and I'm fine with that. But now the fireworks, I cannot support spending 11,000, as much as I love the fireworks. I can't support $11,000 when we're in the hole on just our operating budget to just make the village work. So these are my ideas, because we have to figure out what to do. And I would be fine with either going every other year with the fireworks.
Well, what else are you gonna cut besides this?
You tell me.
No, I'm just
I
asking,
don't know.
what is in your vision? You've got this vision right here, you're telling us. What else are you to bring it down to that $21,000?
I
You're
don't have
taking
it.
10,000 here out of
Is
the.
it 10 or 5? You're saying
Whichever.
5 here.
It's 10,000 or 11,000 total for the cost. Right now, we have budgeted $5,000 in tax revenue.
So we're
So-
5,
So if we would be
Six-
removing
we're
five,
we need
we'd be
to 5
removing
to $6,000
if you cut it all together.
fundraise.
Correct. If we
And
fundraise
it's
the full
being
amount.
done, right? I mean, other municipalities are doing their fundraising. Examples, Pewaukee does. The Waukesha Gun Club gives $10,000 in a donation every year for their fireworks. So, I mean, those things are out there, and you're on top of, like, we can start doing that. So we got a $6,000 lapse, right?
Yeah, gap between that. And I think what President Kasdorf is saying that is with the $21,000 that we're over our levy limit, if, we need to find a way to get that to be zero. And again, one of the things that he's proposing, it seems like, is taking the $5,000 that the taxpayers were going to be putting towards the fireworks and making that now $16,000 over our levy limit due
So
to that.
there again, my question, right back to the same question. what else are you visual looking at?
I don't have any other cuts.
Yeah.
I have a couple ideas, but
Well,
this
then
board, that's what this board does is
I
we,
understand
so
that.
tell me what should we cut?
I'm looking
Talk
at
to me.
your visions.
I don't
have
know.
to have an idea what you're trying to see.
Can I just continue on with the,
Okay,
to get through the I
Get
have
through
like
it.
the capital and debt service.
I think we're also forgetting how well is cutting the fireworks going to stand with the residents of Butler.
And that's a valid, that's a
Yeah.
valid point as
Sure,
well.
We have to take them into consideration. They're the people who elected us for starters,
Exactly.
you know? And I think if we take the fireworks away from them, there's gonna be hell to pay.
Oh, it's absolutely gonna be hell of a pain.
well then we, as Ben will finish this, keep in the back of your mind that we have to come up with $21,000. Go ahead, thank you.
Okay. So this is the debt service. We are expected to increase our debt service payments by about $58,000 next year to a total about $560,000 in debt payments, including interest. We are, and that's how much we're able to levy for that. The levy, we can levy as much as we need to cover the debt expenses. So that's something that is a positive thing. But we are seeing, like I said, an increase about $58,000, mainly due to the fact that we started borrowing again this year. We had a little bit of a lapse last year where we just paid cash for a road project versus borrowing. Just a couple highlights from the borrowed money fund. We're expecting, this number is a little bit flexible, I'll say, but we're expected to borrow currently $607,801, which is a 52% decrease in this line item. However, that decrease is due to the water revenue bonds that we took out this year. Those, excuse me, the revenues and expenditures for the capital projects from that will be going to the 200 fund instead of the 900 fund. So that's the reason why we see that large of a decrease. And the reason why I am saying that it's flexible is what you'll see in the utility funds coming up is there's the option that we could pursue to, for some of the larger expenditures, end up borrowing for the utilities, which would increase the amount of the borrowed money fund to pay for some of those projects. So for the revenues, we are seeing less money that needs to be allocated to the capital fund next year in the amount of about $100,000. This is mainly due to the fact that we had some money from the state that supplemented what we were planning on doing for the tax dollars. So we were putting some of that money towards the fund balance, but now with the financial constraints put on our budget, we are kind of reducing that. We're not going to have the money going to the fund balance. We are not expecting any grants for 2025. We got 2 this year, but we do still have expenditure restraint funds in the amount of about $60,000. All of the revenues in this fund are expected to remain the same, and overall, the revenues are expected to be down about 33.7%. For the expenditures, we are doing we're levying about $40,000 for the final payment of the village hall signage. We are estimating about $70,000 needs to be allocated for the replacement of one of our squads and its changeover. About $5,000 is allocated for the e-bikes for the police department, as Brian had mentioned. About $20,000 is allocated to fire capital. $54,000 is allocated for the DPW's dump truck. That is split amongst the utilities as well. So the total cost of the dump truck is about $254,000. Again, 54 of that is coming out from the general fund through taxes. And smaller amounts are allocated to various other capital projects, such as the tree project and computer replacements. Something that I wanted to highlight is in this budget, right now, I say that they were cut from the budget, but I actually put them in just to kind of highlight the need that we have. We need to start budgeting for water tower painting, an estimated $20,000 or so for the painting of that. It's going to be on the inside of the water tower because that needs to be painted. We're trying to do a 10-year turnaround on the inside and then the outside in 10 years and the inside in 10 years. So it's going to be about 20 years between when the surfaces are painted. Village Hall roof, we're looking to try to allocate about $15,000 because the roof is going to need to be replaced within the next, I'd say 7 to 8 years. And that's going to be probably, I think that Jim gave me a number of about 100,000 or so. We need to recarpet Village Hall. A lot of the carpeting is popping up. Seams are breaking, I'm starting to see over by me that there's going to be some trip points, and also a window replacement. This is just a quote that we got for about $5,000, but the recarpeting and the window replacement, we are not pursuing due to the budget constraints, and water tower painting and Village Hall roof I have currently in the budget, but that means that we're going to be using about $30,000 in fund balance to finance the other projects that are in that capital fund. So that's kind of the end of the levy funds. I have a little bit of information on the levy limit, but I'll stop right here before moving on to see if there's any questions in the capital fund or any comments.
So is it for 1 or 2 e-bikes?
For one, and the supplies associated with that. So the helmets,
So is it 7,000 or 3,500 then?
it is 5,000 total.
The number changed since that draft came out.
So where are you buying the e-bikes? I'm curious. Because
Brian, where are you buying
we
them?
just bought an e-bike. Charlene and I bought an e-bike. It was like $2,300. No, $2,800. Excuse me.
So,
Make sure that microphone's on.
so the proposal, a quote that I got was $3,100 per bike.
Okay.
Slightly different than just your residential
Well,
bicycle. However, additional costs would include training, outfitting police officers with some different uniforms, helmets, equipment on the bicycles such as
it's
red,
more
blue,
than just the bike.
yeah, red and blue lights to
Yep.
operate at night, and some other.
All right, that's fair. I just curious because I'm looking at the
We're
gap.
still
there.
looking at options. That's the proposal for
Right.
the number in the budget right now.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
In discussing it with Chief, we did have 2 in there. We're gonna just do 1 for next year and then see how that goes. So that 5,000 is a placeholder.
All right.
And again, with some of these, an option, if we, again, just to put it out there, it's not ideal, but if we, with the issue with the $21,000 is if the village wanted to include the DPW dump truck on the borrowing next year, that would free up some of the tax levy. But again, then that would come down as debt service tax levy in the future. And obviously borrowing is not the solution to, I'll just say the solution to pollution, just to rhyme, but it's not always the answer. But again, if that is what we need to do to make sure that we can balance the budget, that might need to be an option that we look at. So just putting that out there as an option to consider, just for discussions down the line. If there's nothing else, I'm just going to quickly move on to the levy limit information. The levy limit for 2025 is $2,218,769. The levy required by the budget is going to basically meet that amount, because obviously what we've stated is that we need to use every dollar. And this is a significant decrease from the previous year, again, mainly due to the fact that the state removed the personal property tax, and also there was a decrease in what we are levying for the debt service. From last year, we overstated that a little bit, so now we're correcting that. And so that's why we're seeing a decrease of about $275,000. Net new construction for 2024 increased the levy by $14,204. The amount of levy towards debt is $560,000. And the levy limit worksheet is going to be checked over by Ellers, and Aaron is going to be attending the Ellers levy limit seminar tomorrow to make sure that we know everything that is going on with that. Any questions about the levy limit information before I move on to the utilities? Okay. So for the water utility fund, we are, as you may know, working with Ellers right now to kind of do an investigation of a cash flow analysis to see what the cash flow needs are going to need to be for the water utility going for the next about 10 years or so. And the village board is going to probably get that presentation here at the end of October, I believe. And then they're going to have to make that decision at the time if they want to pursue a rate case with the Public Service Commission to raise water rates to basically make sure that the utility remains stable into the future. And part of the rate case is moving part of the hydrant rental levy from the water bill or from the tax levy to the water bill. And again, that is another option that the village has in its disposal. Right now, we're moving only about $33,000 from that tax levy. So in the budget, you see in the 100 accounts, it says hydrant rental, and it's about $134,000. We're moving about $33,000 of that. We're hoping to, with the rate case, from the general fund to the water utility to be paid for by the user fees. An option for the village is to move more of that to free up more of the levy, but then again, it's going to be paid for by increases in the water bills. So again, it's kind of pick your poison on how you want to deal with that. Uncertainty in the rates, because we don't know if the village is even going to go with the rate case, or what that rate case is going to look like when it comes to the rates that they're going to be proposing. So we kept the estimates for the revenues the same as 2024, as usage is currently on track to be exactly what we budgeted for this year, except for commercial and public authority, where public authority water revenue is increased slightly, and commercial has decreased from where we budgeted this year, but everything else seems to be on track.
I got a question on that.
Yes.
In Cargill, they just put in a 12-inch main. It
Correct.
sounds like they're going to be using more water.
Correct. So and again, I just kept everything the same because I don't know what the rates are going to be, and I don't know how much water they're going to use in addition to that for the industrial.
Well, it was an 8-inch main. They went to a 12-inch main.
Correct. I don't know exactly how much. I can't budget off of.
I understand that.
Yeah. So it will increase probably. I just don't know by how much, and I don't want to overestimate. And then
That's fair.
Yeah, and the fees associated with that are going to increase as well for the private fire protection and whatnot. So we're working with all of that, and again, we're working with Ellers and kind of seeing where the usage is expected to go from here. And then we are seeing more investment income due to the Ellers managed portfolio from the water revenue bonds. We're anticipating about $780,000 in revenues next year in the water utility, without any type of rate increase budgeted. With the expenses, the DPW labor costs were underestimated in 2024. 2025 is a little bit more accurate of an estimation, so costs are up there. Decrease in the amount of for health insurance due to the employee not taking health insurance and converting from a family plan to a single plan for another employee. We are seeing a larger increase in expenses such as purchase water, the tax equivalent, and utilities. The biggest thing is with purchase water. I'm hoping that number isn't as high because we are finding, as we do more of the road project, we're finding more of those leaks in the water main. And we have seen, as a result of that, a decrease in the bills from City of Milwaukee Water Works because of that. And we are also doing a good job of replacing meters that are frozen, broken, not working, or being estimated. So we're hoping to recoup more of that cost. And then we are looking at additionally large increases in debt expenses and capital projects. which are again driving up costs. The water revenue bond payments are starting to come to fruition that we have to pay. And the water main replacement project is using the money borrowed in 2024. And then again, that DPW dump truck, right now we're estimating about 60,000 or so of the DPW dump truck is going to be paid for by the water utility fund. And as you'll see in the next couple of slides, which are thankfully the last of them, each one of these utilities is going to have the same kind of repetitive comment saying that we need to look at, with this dump truck, if we want to borrow for that or have the increased cost and possibly take a hit on the net positions of each of the utilities, if we don't want to do that. Because with the one-time expense, I'm not in favor of hiking rates for 1 year just to drop them again. I think that that type of roller coaster is not necessarily needed, and that's kind of what the net position is meant for, is to cover those changes in expenses. But again, we have to consider the net positions of each of the accounts, and if we want to keep them where they are, or if we're willing to take a hit on each of those net positions. So with the sewer utility, the rates will be need to be adjusted for 2025. I'm redoing the formula needed to recoup MMSD capital charges. So that will result in a decrease in that portion of the rate. Again, we need to look at local rates due to the large capital projects that we're proposing. We're having an abnormally large cost to our road project next year for the sewer utility because there's a bottleneck in the sanitary sewer between 125 and 124, I believe, on Stark, where we need to increase that from an 8-inch or a 10-inch to a 12-inch, I believe. So we need to do a lot of work on that next year, which is going to cost us about $129,000 total for that section of the road project. And if we did not do anything, if we wanted to fund everything that we wanted to do with rates, our rates would have to go from 2.91 dollars per thousand gallons to $5.29 per thousand gallons if everything was funded by a rate increase, which obviously we don't want to do. I'm not wanting to do that, but that's just for informational purposes. And if we did not do any type of borrowing and we just wanted to let the overage in expenses from the revenues without a rate increase and without borrowing, the net position would be hit by about $200,000. Right now, I would be proposing a little bit of a split in that, and I can talk about that a little bit at the end, but kind of doing a half and half approach. And overall, rates will also be affected by MMSD charges. I did get the MMSD budget, and the capital charges for us are going to be going up next year, but the operations and maintenance budgets are falling quite substantially next year. So I'm hoping I'm going to try to get better clarification from MMSD before November, but I'm hoping that their rate charges to us are going to go down overall. And I kind of have a plan in place to keep our rates even and make sure that we're not jacking up rates on people and just to bring them down next year. Because again, these two expenses, the road project and the dump truck, are one-time expenses because I don't expect the road project to be anywhere near that expensive in 2026 as we go south of Hampton. And this is kind of what I was talking about. Total expenses will depend on MMSD charges, seeing an increase in wages, and seeing cost savings from healthcare and healthcare deductible. And like I said, the decision needs to be coming from the board on how to fund these projects. I'm currently in my budget, I'm doing a half and half approach where half of it's being borrowed for and half of it's hitting the fund balance and keeping the rates the same. Because again, I think that's part of the reason why we have the net position is we can keep the rate steady in these years where we have a volatile increase in expenses. And right now, I believe that I would have to double check, but the unrestricted fund balance and the sewer account, I believe, is about $900,000. So if we did half of it, it would take a hit of about $100,000, which would bring us to about the fund balance of where we were, I think, in 2022. So it'd set us back about 2 years in that regard. But again, that's a decision and a discussion that we can have. But everything else is seeing small changes up or down. And then lastly, the storm utility fund. We are having an increase in revenue from the ERU, increase from the flexographics expansion in 2023. Again, talking about how we are going to fund the road project, because the road project for the storm sewer is also going to be a little bit higher next year due to some of the work that needs to be done, and then the dump truck costs. And we would, again, either need to raise rates from $31.21 to $34.47 to fund it with rates, or if we use the fund balance or borrow for the capital projects. And again, overall revenue increase would depend on board action.
What was the projected increase or the price for that next year's road project?
We are give me one sec.
That was including the storm, sewer, everything, complete.
Yes. So I believe in the thing that I sent you, I think that what I have in here is I am not 100% sure right now. But I believe that the overall capital projects are going up by about $42,000. That includes the dump truck and the road project costs. I don't have the number right off the top of my head on the increase from this year to next year for the storm utility for the road project.
I'm looking at the overall for the complete road project. Is it $1 million, 1.2, 1.3?
Again, I'm sorry. I have the proposal from Ben High. I would pull it up on here, but I'm not connected to the server.
That's fine.
But I can provide that to you tomorrow. I can get that.
Give us a better idea what we're doing with our revenues and expenditures for next year.
Sure.
For the
Actually,
long
I think
term.
give me 1 sec. Sorry.
That's all right. It's all right.
Okay.
You can catch
Because
me up.
I can look it up really quick. I just want to turn this off so I can go to my emails and find that estimate.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. So in summary, the village is seeing increasing fiscal pressures due to the increase in cost of service and products. We're severely being restrained by the ability of our ability to raise funds due to the levy limits placed on us by the state. And important projects and purchases are either being delayed, or we're having to do borrowing, or we're going to have to hit our net positions or fund balances to fund them. And we can do strategic moves to try to temporarily stave off service cuts, but at this point, it's kind of postponing the inevitable. And kind of my needed statement here is action is going to be needed to be coming down from the state to allow the village to continue functioning as it currently does, or we're going to have to go to some sort of operational referendum at some point just to keep services how they are. Because right now, as I see it, we're gonna be hurting really, really soon. And Ellers is saying that they're seeing an increase in the number of municipalities that are going to have to go out for that in the next couple of years because of the constraints that we're at. And so we're not the only ones. So I guess with that, I'll yield to you any questions that you have, and then I would like to have a discussion on how you want me to move forward with capital projects, and if you want to have some of those hit the fund balance on those, or if you want to have borrowing or raise rates, or what we want to do with that.
Well, I'll just, first of all, I know you have spent a tremendous amount of time putting this budget together, so I greatly appreciate that, and we appreciate it. And the numbers are the numbers, so we'll talk about it here, but thank you for doing the presentation, and well, I think it was very informative. So let's get back to the park issue then. We're gonna separate out, I'm fine with separating out the park and the fireworks. It doesn't bother me which fund it is in, but at the end of the day, if we big picture defer our maintenance, we know that holding projects cost us more in the end. We've learned that. So on everything we've done. So I prefer to, by the very least, is to keep the water tower painting and the village hall roof in the budget. Because we need that, we're gonna need that's what a capital project is. So it doesn't do us any good to push that off. It's just gonna cost us more. So I'd like to go back to the fireworks discussion.
Can we put that back up then?
You want your, would it be helpful to have that budget up? Is that what you'd
I'll
like?
move that back to here.
Brad?
Maybe the budget, yeah.
The Park and Rec page in the budget document.
This is the Park and Rec. So this is Fund 101. The the parade can be, I mean, I like it, now that I have a better understanding of the fireworks are separate from the park. I think, well, I'm not going to, I'm only giving ideas because I don't, this is what our budget is we have to come up with what do we do and how do we fund about $21,000 other than just taking it from the general fund. So what I had proposed there was we can take the fireworks out completely. We can do full sponsorship, or the village could support half of it with sponsoring the other half. And if we didn't have enough money, we could do it every other year. It does get a good crowd down there for the fireworks. There's quite a few people. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to salary costs and benefit costs versus fireworks, that's the dilemma we have.
Well, I get that, but when you look at the overall fun and excitement of the village, aside from the 4th of July, we have none.
Exactly.
I mean, we have hot rods in Hampton, but that doesn't really benefit the village.
Yeah, that's not for the kids, you know.
The parade is something that brings, 4,000 or 5,000 people out once a year. And all of the celebrations that occur in everybody's front yards and backyards and side yards and streets it would be a shame to see any part of that day, I don't know, be salvaged or scrapped without really, I mean, so if we're looking at a way to sponsor the fireworks, maybe the answer is that's something for 2026. And we leave 2025 as is, and we have a year and a half to plan for it instead of,
Yes.
7 months. But I don't know that, when we look at the park and rec, and I think at some point, maybe we need to discuss calling the Parks and Rec Committee, the Parks and Rec Committee again, because we dance around this community event stuff but that's for another day. But we look at the budget and we see the park fees and the property taxes. We see the park maintenance at $10,000, but we don't see, that budget area right there of Parks and Rec doesn't see anything from the community building rentals. Yet park maintenance every Monday and Tuesday is down there maintaining the park from the community event rental. Am I wrong? I mean, are we not cleaning up? DPW is down there cleaning up after that.
Well, we have a solution. That's the pavilion. And for next year, we are adding a pavilion fee. We'd like to add that in our fee schedule. and do that by permit only on Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and holidays. So we want to start getting better control of that. The building itself has a deposit. The garbage is coming from the pavilion.
Okay, the garbage, but
I also want to point out that the expenditures listed here is not DPW wages. That's not even calculated in this.
what does park maintenance consist of then?
That consists of any type of maintenance that needs to be done on, minus the community building, because that is considered building maintenance in the general fund. But that involves anything from like with the lawnmowers, like repairs on the lawnmowers that mowed the grass there, anything with the maintenance of the baseball diamonds, any type of like tree or brush cleanup, plantings, it all comes out of there. When we redid the concrete patio in the back, that came out of the park maintenance. Anything that when we had there was that kid that got stuck in the
Yep.
stuff, that replacement came out of there. So anything that's maintaining the park itself comes out of that budget.
And then with respect to that though, shouldn't the same be, I mean, I'm assuming the Little League pays a fee to use the upper diamond, right? Where does that revenue go?
So the village, going from before my time, the village has historically not charged the Butler Youth Baseball for the rental of it because of their community-centric
Sure.
thing. So we do have occasional, like the rugby team that we may have seen down there from DSHA, they do pay us. And I'm adjusting the fee schedule next year that I did not discuss here for that, because right now it's just a blanket $250 fee, but it does not state how many, like if that's for every 2 days for a month, or because right now it just says it's blanket. So for that, we're going to be looking at adjusting that as well to try to bring in more revenue for that.
And I guess I just feel like there's a lot of adjusting that's happening specific to this one category.
Exactly.
Right.
I feel
And-
that same thing.
And that's great. And maybe adjusting is what it needs, but I think that when we're looking at a budget in October, that's going to impact something that's truly, we have to have planned and ready to go by the end of, I don't know, when do we have to have fireworks ordered? Is that?
This year we had it done in June. Gina didn't email me the contract until the beginning of June.
So we have 6 months to figure out how we're gonna fund next year's one-day celebration. And I wonder if maybe we're not rushing on that to balance a budget that we need to balance. Can we, if we're looking at doing something every other year, can't we have a cushion of a year to figure out what we do in 2026?
Sure, but tell me where to get 21,000. The 21,000 is due by mid-November. So we have a month and a half to figure out what to do.
So right now we're cutting fireworks by $5,000.
About 5, yeah. We spent 11,000. We budgeted 10,005. We spent 10,008. There was a hazmat fee on that. So
Right, so 6,000. We're cutting it by 6,000.
yes,
Okay,
that's
so that
what
comes
I'm-
off that 6,000 is off the 21, or that 6,000 is already
It's already taken off.
off, so it's already accounted for so 21,000 is yet to go
Yes,
with taking 6. Dump truck was how much total?
Total about 254, I
So
believe.
$250,000,
Correct.
and is that to add an extra or
It's
replace?
replacing one that is,
It's due.
it's,
23.
it broke down
It's
last
due.
year on the side of the road on the highway, and we had to fix it on freeway traffic. So
Okay, so that gets sold. What's the value of that? What's the value of a $250,000 truck in today's broken down?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
What are you gonna dump truck?
We're going to go through the normal. I know that Craig has channels of selling them, so I don't know how much we would expect to
It'll
get
go to
back from
auction
that,
more
but
than
yeah,
likely, right? There's,
we'd have some, couple thousand. I don't know what they would be going for, but we would have at least a decent chunk to kind of offset that. I don't have that built into the budget because I don't know what that amount would be. But yes, there would be sold and there would be revenue from that.
What the trucks are going for on state site are anywhere from 12,000 for a 3-year-old truck to 20,000 for
I think.
I hope
this-
it's more than a couple $1,000s. That's all I'm
I
saying.
think
Otherwise,
the-
I'll take it for that.
I think the last,
I don't.
I mean,
don't
it's got to
know
be
about
worth more than a
trucks.
couple $1,000s,
So, I'll
right?
be
I mean,
honest.
scrap weight alone is worth more than a couple $1,000s.
the aluminum box is worth that much.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know anything about
Is the
trucks.
sale
so.
of that truck already anticipated in a line item? Because we do.
It
have
is.
a lot
It
of
is
that stuff in
not.
there.
It is not.
Right.
And I get you can't give it, no one can give you the opposite, a perfect number, right? Because it's auction, right? It goes to auction. So, it could be a lot of money or it could be no money, right? That's
And-
what you take when you put it in auction.
Yeah, and between now and because I know that we do have an item in the capital fund for the squad sale that is going to happen once we replace the old squad. I got that estimate from talking to the police department, and they were looking at similar year cars that were police cruisers that were going. So we have a little bit of an estimate with that. So I could work with the DPW / the police department, because I know that they have access to the auction site, to see if similar vehicles are going for and what they're going for, to be able to give at least a rough estimate of what we would expect.
Yeah, and I think it would be tough anyway. I just wanted to know that that's in the police cars are easier to give an estimate of versus a dump truck, because it really is a unicorn, if you will, for a sale, right? Its size, the motor that's in it, the miles that are on it, that kind of stuff. The police units are a lot easier to get a budget number of a sale, right? But I just was wondering if anybody had an idea of what,
well, I'll add to that we don't have the new truck yet. The new dump truck isn't scheduled till the end of November. So the chance of that being sold yet in 25 could be slim as well, because we don't have a production date yet
In 24.
in 25. We
25.
ordered it. We don't know when it's
Oh,
coming.
I thought you said.
I thought it said it was coming in
November 25.
Oh,
It's coming.
So yeah, we're placing an order. It's going to begin construction in November of 24. I think that they gave us between September and November of next year when it's
you'll
going to
lucky if
be
you see it.
finally delivered.
All right. So that makes things a lot different too. I was under the assumption it was coming yet this year.
A squad car usually gets you about 3,000 to 5,000, depending, when we sell a squad.
And then it's going to be. We put in for it. It's going to be constructed. Starting construction in November and then delivered. They hoped by next September, but production delays could move it to November of next year.
So is there any portion of the road project that could either be absorbed by our people, like putting in sidewalks, that kind of thing, aprons, whatever, that could defer that cost, or part of it that would maybe be shortened up and not done even, to recoup that 21,000 or save that $21,000?
It's possible. I would have to take a look with our village engineer on sidewalk replacements, because I know that with some of that stuff, our guys could maybe take over and do, which would be cheaper. But
I know like last year they stopped doing it because there was just so much was needed. But in this case, since we have our backs against the wall, it could be something to look at. I'm just
correct.
looking for ideas.
That's it. We got to rate more speeding tickets.
right. Ben, if we look at the Fund 200
Yes.
and we look at maintenance of distribution mains, last year in 2024, we projected 20,000. This, in 2025, we've got 23,000. Do we know what the anticipated 2024 total is gonna be?
So I budgeted 23 for maintenance of distribution and maintenance of mains. I can't predict exactly that. I was putting in about 20,000 for the rest of this year. It really depends on how bad of a year we have for water main breaks, because
Sure.
that's where that expense comes out of.
And I just, only reason I ask is if you look at the year-to-date total as of August 31st, we're about a little over a third of that. So we're at 7,000.
Yeah, and I know that we had the large break that just happened. So I'm hoping that as we go along and we repair these mains, that cost comes down.
Sure.
So, and again, I'll put it back on the table with any of the particularly I'll just say with the dump truck. I don't want to say the easy way out, but the easy, fix for balancing the budget would be if you added that to the borrowing for next year. And I'll just say that for the borrowing capacity of the village, because we took the break in 2023 when just did the alleyways with cash, if we added all the expenses from the storm, the sewer, and the general fund for the capital projects, that would increase the amount that we're borrowing by about 300,000. Even with that, the capacity for the village for debt would increase by about 2%, from 45% of our capacity remaining to 47% of our capacity remaining. And I had a very long, over an hour-long discussion with Ellers about how that's all going to shake out, and they said it would honestly be pretty negligible when it came to the overall tax rate for the village when it came to borrowing, just because when we're talking about borrowing for over $1 million road project, putting on the $300,000 extra, it over the course of 10 years, when we're repaying it back, it wouldn't significantly impact the amount that the village is paying.
So does the board have any suggestions for cuts to fund the budget?
My suggestion would be to do what Ben just proposed and
And take on more debt and
more.
and you're gonna, instead of cutting a little bit here and there, you're gonna pay
Where are you gonna cut
5%.
it from?
That's what we have to find out. But
I mean, we can go line by line and say, well, this is what we spent so far through August, and here's where we're at for a budget for 25, and try and get close on those numbers.
And without having these numbers, I mean, we've looked at these numbers personally, but not like this. You haven't come down and hammered it out. So it's really hard to take these numbers, even though they're accurate numbers, and hammer them out here right now. I think it's a very difficult situation.
well, we'll come back on the 15th of October. I think we'll leave this open. And we have to,
I would
I-
like to see that.
Why the 15th? Why don't we do it? Oh, that's in the.
that's the next meeting.
That's the next meeting.
But I mean, I have a hard time taking a line of credit out for fireworks.
Well, not
We
just,
haven't, we cut it. We cut $6,000 out of it. So we're
Well,
not taking
But
out,
that hasn't been, that's what we're discussing.
right, but that, you said that already was, we need to find $21,000 more
Correct.
because we took $6,000 from the fireworks. So we already cut the fireworks. And
Well, let's find
Could be-
$27,000 then and leave the fireworks alone.
When do you need?
For-
final
for-
figures?
for the discussion I'm trying to have with, right now is that
You're correct.
we cut 6,000, so we already started, right? Or
you've already
talked
said,
about
yeah.
I talked about it. I present.
$6,000 cut. So we still have 21. So we are cutting. So what's next?
I don't know.
So but when you say, well, we're going to take out a loan for fireworks, we already cut the fireworks. So that's not a fair statement.
When do you need?
That we're going to take
these?
out a loan to pay for fireworks
I would need.
when we already, that was the first on the chopping block. Fair?
I would say that for the,
Fair.
Okay, okay.
funds.
You're right.
I just want
I
to be on
would
the same
want-
page.
I would- it would
We
just at the
already
very
cut,
least would be the
right?
middle
We're not
of
gonna take out a
next-
loan
next
for
meeting.
fireworks, right? We already cut, we already took 6 grand from that. So,
That makes sense.
And propose
You know,
fundraising for
And
the
we need to
rest.
pass it in November.
right.
the budget.
I think fundraising for,
Okay.
I think the fundraising can be done for that.
We could have it next.
You
meeting.
know, that aside, we still have $21,000.
Okay.
So we already cut
All right. Side
6 out
conversation.
of our
Let's just all,
27.
let's all regroup. Well, but I mean,
It's not a
because
side.
I have one more topic I need to bring back up,
All right, please do it.
Charlene. So I'm just gonna mention this, and that this is what we're working on with the library. Is their line item, and this is just for the next discussion as well. Ben has been talking with Charlene, and I've been involved as well. They are asking for, Ben, can you pull up that line?
Yes.
The computer equipment maintenance of 5807
Right.
for their 25 budget. And some of the discussions we've been we're working on getting better numbers for what needs to be actually replaced.
Yeah, we're working on getting better explanation of what that $5,800 meant, and we haven't succeeded. So essentially, I mean, right now, we've got 3 computers out of service. We're not sure if it's hardware, software, so, just let you know, we are turning people away from using the computers. And part of that is hardware, because we didn't invest in 21 and 22 in our technology at all. You can see the numbers there. So we are doing a little bit of catch up, but what we really, really need in 2025 is to replace the director's laptop, which we think is going to be around $2,000, because that laptop has aged out and will not support software anymore. It's a very key, important part of making the library run. And we have a schedule for maintenance on the computers, and we have another $1,000 scheduled for either one of our catalog computer or one of the public PCs. So where we got to 58, I'm embarrassed to say, I can't honestly tell you. A lot of side conversations that weren't documented. So, I mean, if you need to take that number down, certainly there's room to negotiate on that. We did have a surprised conversation with Bridges, who's our library consortium, when they told us that our $3,000 router will need to be replaced next year. So we're kind of trying to figure out where we're going to pay for that.
And in your technology maintenance plan that you submitted to myself and Ben, some of these costs were coming out of the reserve fund versus the budget.
Well, we certainly had planned to tap the reserve fund if we needed to. I didn't document that too clearly when I sent you the initial plan. We were going to hit the budget, and if we needed extra, to hit the reserve fund after that.
And then by the next meeting, we're gonna get a little bit more understanding about the usage at 22% and when it's at. Is there a way to track when it's 100? Or how often
The only way
that?
to track if it's at 100 is to have the staff sit there and do tally marks. It's really, I can tell you that 23% of the time, there were days when all 5 computers were in use. I cannot tell you how many hours out of the day those computers were in use. But that data just doesn't exist.
Or maxed out, or when all 5 were being used.
Right.
But now 3 of those are down. 3 of the 5 are down.
2 of the 5 are down,
2 of the 5.
and our
Okay.
catalog is down.
Do you have 1 catalog or 2
We
catalog?
have 1 catalog.
Okay.
We have no card catalog at the moment.
Does the card catalog use like a less of a computer for that?
Yeah, that
Is it-
would be a cheaper replacement than the laptop,
Okay.
actually.
So what we did is, we're still having this ongoing discussion. We're trying to come up with a number before the next meeting.
Yeah.
Just
Definitely can.
just
do
so
it.
that's pending. So I just wanted the board to know that that's what we're doing on that.
Yeah.
But everything else was fine. Did anyone have any questions for the library? Anyone have any questions for the police or fire? Okay.
Write more tickets.
Pick up people on the side of the road. Take
And
it
I
fast.
guess for the next meeting, we'll focus in on what do we cut? I think it's fair to say we should properly capital improve the expenditures, especially for the roof and the water tower.
Yeah, those are gimmies for sure.
So,
Absolutely.
and what's kind of happened in the past, I think, is stuff gets taken out and then we end up just using the general fund balance.
Or we end up borrowing for it.
Correct. All right. Does anyone have any additional questions for Ben or myself on the budget? We were told many years in the past that this was coming, and I think it's here. So,
Quick question on for painting and roof. Those you're putting in 25,000, 20,000 and 15,000?
Yes,
20 for painting, 15 for the roof.
correct.
Those numbers came from a bids of what we have, and then how many years are we saving, if you will?
Yes, so the roof started to be saved for this year. The water tower will start next year. The numbers that I got were, from a roof guy came out last year and checked our roof and said that we probably have about 8 years, which I think is right on target for when it would be due for
About 20 years, right?
redoing, because
Yeah.
I want to say that we had that roof redone when the building was redone in 2010. So that would, 8 years plus 14, like between 20 and 25 years. We think that we could maybe extend it out a little bit if we did some type of seal coating on it to extend it by a couple of years. But we got a quote from him that, this is kind of what you would be looking at. And then we looked at we estimated for the water tower based off of the price of painting the exterior and then adding what we expect the average increase every year to that would be for inflationary purposes.
Now you're gonna be painting the inside of it this year?
Correct. In 2028,
Oh,
that's
okay.
the goal, to paint the
Okay.
inside.
Okay.
So,
But if we would defer those and.
no, I'm not saying
defer.
deferred. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get what that end number is gonna be is, he's got specific numbers. So we're thinking it's $80,000 to paint, $100,000.
Well,
We're putting
and
20 in
and
every
that is
year, right?
that is being split, and I'm sorry, I didn't preface this. That's being split with the water utility. So it's half and half. So I'm estimating between, I want to say, about 125 to 130,000 to paint the interior. But again, that cost is split between
Okay, so that's where I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around,
and the
right?
water utility. Yeah.
So that makes it a little tough on us, right? To where we cut when there's two parts paying for it, right? We're saving, but also money's coming from somewhere else, right? And that's,
You're right.
on the surface, it's hard to put those together. That's why I'm asking these questions, right?
Correct. And it is difficult. Again, with the water tower serving solely the water utility, the idea for that is to have.
I just want to know that. I mean, I'm not saying we should be doing this. I'm just trying to figure out, we're being asked to cut. If I don't know where there's other money coming into this already, then that is harder for me to find and put together. It makes it tough to say where I want to cut money, right?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right.
all right. I think we can move on. Discussion and possible action on ordinance amending chapter 4 of the Butler Code of Ordinances as it relates to alcoholic beverages.
Yes. So this ordinance is probably one of the larger ordinances that we've passed in recent years. This is overhauling chapter 4 of the Butler Code of Ordinances because Act 73 last year from the state redid a lot of the regulations surrounding alcoholic beverages, how they're regulated, how alcohol is served, how alcohol is
Identified.
served, and all this other stuff. Basically, it changed everything. And so there was mandatory changes that needed to be made to local ordinances in response to that. And the village attorney had a Zoom meeting set up with all the municipalities, and also sent out a model ordinance stating what they would recommend us to adopt. So I then had to take their model ordinance, craft it to our ordinance. And then after I did all of that, then I had to send it back to the attorney to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. So basically, this is putting together a much more detailed ordinance for how we regulate, enforce, and carry out alcoholic beverages in the village. So, you have to have a business plan. They need to have an occupancy permit, because it was specified in the zoning code, but not in this code. So it kind of makes the process for approval a lot more clearer, and also sets a lot more, a greater ability for the village to take back a liquor license or suspend it or revoke it. And adds more teeth to the ordinance as well. So if any of them were to fall into debt with the village, that would be grounds for revoking their license. If they were doing all sorts of different things, it adds a lot more language that we can then take action against nuisance bars.
So the state is issuing the licenses now, though, right? Not us.
The bartending licenses, there's the option that the state, you could get a state permit for bartending. We still have control where we are able to issue bartender licenses if people come in for that, but the state is issuing them as well.
On the state issued ones, we still have the authority to nix them if there's issues?
No, we do not. That the state does their own investigations, and that's where I have a problem,
Yeah,
because
can
we
see that
could.
now when it
100%.
changed.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they are supposed, and what this ordinance
Control.
instills is that if they have one of those state licenses, they need to notify us and provide us a copy of that. So then if the police department does a check on the bar, we have a documentation of everyone who has the license, and we have the copy of that on file. But again, the state might have a different, as we have all discovered, that the state has some of their own issues. We could say that we don't want this person to have a license in the village of Butler. However, the state might have a different opinion. And again, that permit would be applied to the state as a whole. They could bartend anywhere in the state. So that's a concern that I have, but unfortunately with the state, I can't.
That's a law. The state did that. Right?
Correct.
It was out of our control. So, okay.
And this was reviewed by the attorney?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the amended chapter 4 of the Butler Building Code ordinances.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. And finally, discussion and possible action on application to pave or alter portions of the village right of way for Ryan Bratt, Milltown Property Management. Thank you very much for waiting.
We're gonna postpone this till next time.
Yeah, maybe next week.
We're just looking to see if we can expand our parking lot, in front of the building, 2 more parking spots, just under 12,000 square foot building. I think there's only 8. A lot of tenants been asking for more space to park. It's right next to the Quick Trip, so there's a lot of activity on the streets. Just anything we can do to help.
The
us tenants.
spaces that are there now, when did you guys put those in?
Well, like 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't that long
Yeah,
ago?
it wasn't that long ago. Yeah,
Okay.
and the tenants, I think one tenant's got 12 employees, the other one's got 5. So they're just looking for a little bit more space.
Yeah, how come you didn't go all the way the first time? Yeah. See,
Okay,
we said.
no, right.
We were
So it
talking about
wasn't an
before.
issue with it being something with the village saying you can't do it.
No,
It was just monetary.
It was just monetary. Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
like trying
makes
to
sense.
get bought the building that year. It's like, okay, I got cut somewhere. Just
That's
like you guys
the only
do
thing we
thing.
could think of.
Yeah. So
And there's no issue with the neighbor right there?
no, him and I get along great.
Yeah.
So how many, I'm sure you'll get how many spots?
So there's currently 8, and this is just to get 2 more spots, exact same size, shape, same.
Just gotta take a tree down.
Got to take
Yeah,
a tree
take
down.
Tree down. I'll have my landscaper. I got him.
Is that a village tree?
I have no idea if
It's
it is.
right
Yeah.
next, it
don't-
must be. It's in a right of way.
The ROW, yeah. It's about 2 feet, maybe less than 2 feet off the curb. It's kind of
Yeah, it's pretty close.
a little bit too.
Nice
so.
big maple.
I don't have the image right in front of me.
Does the village have any issues with a tree coming down?
Yeah, that looks like a
I
village.
mean, it looks nice there and all that with the grass, but
It's the industrial area.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So your
Parking is
parking spots
tough.
go all the way to the end of the building or just shy of it?
Shy of building by about like 6 to 8 feet. The property line.
Oh,
goes
so
up.
it won't even go
We
to
won't
the
even
end of
go-
the
yeah, we'll use
building?
some grass there, so it's not right on top of the neighbor or anything like that. I think we'd be eliminate one, I guess, street parking spot to create the two. Right now, there's like one car can fit right there, so.
And we did limit that area with parking because of the quick trip, so.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like much, but 2 spots would make a kind of a big deal.
I would think.
It's busy.
So it's tough there.
In the end, it's one spot, but still one spot.
Yeah, one spot, tenants
So if
appreciate
that
it.
tree's on the village property, who's taking it down? Who's responsible for taking it down?
I can,
He said he was gonna do it.
I can do it, yeah. I got my stump grinder and my landscaper, not a problem. We're good to go. I'll haul the
Okay.
brush myself maybe, or get some firewood out of it, so.
Building inspector didn't have any issues, Ben?
No.
Okay. Any other questions or do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
I'll second it.
I heard Brad and Tom. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks
Do
a
I have a
lot.
motion to adjourn?
I'll make that one too.
I'll
Make a
second it.
motion to adjourn.
I heard Brad and Eric. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you. Whew, it's late.
Bingo. Oh, serving beer, so you had to make sure those ladies.
We lost 8-4, I think it was.